We face real and lasting dangers. Russia continues its brutal war against Ukraine.
Russia is and will remain direct military threat to NATO, and it will remain as this after the ceasefire or after the peace that will be achieved in Ukraine one day.
If we don't do this now, then it will cost us a lot more in the future.
A group of saboteurs set off a bomb which was designed to derail a Polish train. Unfortunately, thankfully, they didn't succeed, but the intention was there. Poland is delighted to be joining Norway and Germany in a package from the American program of supporting Ukraine, together the sizable sum of $500 million.
As NATO foreign ministers gather in Brussels, the alliance is shifting into a new gear. A historic pledge to spend 5% of GDP on defense, a U.S.-led peace process with Russia that still has no clear breakthrough, and frontline countries warning that Russia will remain a direct military threat even after any ceasefire in Ukraine. At the center of it all is NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, trying to keep 32 allies united while President Trump pushes Europe to spend more and while Russian hybrid attacks hit railways, airspace, and infrastructure. In this video, we'll unpack what was really decided in Brussels, what the 5% spending target actually means, how the PERL program turns European money into U.S. weapons for Ukraine, and whether these peace talks are genuine diplomacy or just a pause before the next phase of the war. This meeting in Brussels is not just another diplomatic ritual. It sits halfway between the historic NATO summit in The Hague, where allies agreed to move towards 5% of GDP on defense, and the next summit in Ankara, where leaders are supposed to show real progress. NATO's message is blunt. Russia's war against Ukraine is still raging, the winter is here, and hybrid attacks are spreading inside the alliance itself. Mark Rutte warned that Russia is targeting civilians and critical infrastructure in Ukraine, while also violating NATO airspace, mapping undersea cables, and launching cyber attacks. The conclusion from Brussels is clear. NATO thinks this is a long war, not a temporary crisis.
We face real and lasting dangers. Russia continues its brutal war against Ukraine, increasingly targeting its people and critical infrastructure as winter sets in. We must continue to respond with strength, unity, and resolve.
For years, NATO's benchmark was 2% of GDP on defense. Many countries didn't even meet that. Now, under pressure from both the security situation and from Washington, allies have endorsed a much more ambitious goal: 5% of GDP for defense and security-related spending by 2035, including at least 3.5% for core defense like troops, equipment, and readiness. On paper, this is huge. In practice, the picture is very uneven.
This year we have the 4% of our GDP spending on defense. Next year we will have 5.4% of our GDP dedicated for the defense.
Countries closest to Russia are moving fastest. Lithuania is racing ahead of the target. Latvia says its next budget includes hardcore defense capabilities, not foggy stuff. Sweden plans to hit 3.5% by 2030, and the Nordic states highlight that just 5 countries with under 30 million people are providing around 1/3 of NATO military aid to Ukraine this year. Their implicit message to bigger allies: if we can do this, what's your excuse? One of the most important and misunderstood decisions in Brussels is about a mechanism called PERL, the Prioritized Ukraine Requirement List. In simple terms, the United States provides the weapons, including Patriot missiles and critical air defense systems. European allies and Canada pay the bill. Rutte said allies and partners have already committed over $4 billion, and NATO is on track to reach $5 billion for this year alone, with more to come in 2026.
Allies and partners have already committed now really over $4 billion to PERL, getting us on the track to the $5 billion for the full year.
On the doorstep, Germany, Norway, and Poland unveiled a new $500 million package through PERL, with Germany contributing $200 million explicitly framed as a response to both the war in Ukraine and Russian sabotage on NATO territory.
Bomb which was designed to derail a Polish train. Partly because of that, we are making an additional expression of solidarity with the people of Ukraine, and Poland is delighted to be joining Norway and Germany in a package from the American program of supporting Ukraine, together the sizable sum of $500 million.
This is how NATO now tries to square the circle. Trump and Rubio can say the U.S. is still the strongest military power and arsenal for Ukraine, but Europe writes more of the checks. If you listen carefully to the ministers in Brussels, they are no longer talking only about tanks and missiles. The new fear is a slow drip of hybrid attacks. In Poland, saboteurs allegedly tried to derail a train with a bomb. In the Baltic region, meteorological balloons are disrupting civil aviation and threatening infrastructure. In Moldova, Russian drones repeatedly violate airspace. Across Europe, there are arsons, cyber attacks, and suspected assassinations tied to Russian networks.
Even today, we are, as the NATO, under attack with the different forms of the hybrid activities from Russia and its accomplice, Belarus. That is the GPS, jamming and spoofing. These are meteorological balloons that are now interrupting our civil aviation and make the real danger to our critical infrastructure.
Lithuania and Latvia say allies must respond with stronger air defense and readiness, not just statements. Latvia openly reminds that NATO countries have offensive cyber capabilities and can use them. But, as the minister said, there are things better done and not said. Poland goes one step further, linking hybrid attacks directly to more money for Ukraine. Radek Sikorski's message to Moscow is blunt. The more you sabotage us, the more weapons we send to Kiev. In the background of this entire meeting are the U.S.-led peace talks between Washington and Moscow. President Trump wants a deal that ends the war. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is not even in Brussels. He's fully absorbed by the negotiations. Mark Rutte is extremely careful not to leak details. He repeats one line: only the American president has been able to break the deadlock, and NATO will not say anything that could complicate the talks.
There is only one person in the whole world who was able to break the deadlock when it comes to the war in Ukraine, and that is the American president, Donald J. Trump, and he did. He started in February to get engaged, and he is engaged up to and including today, and his team is engaged.
But many European ministers are visibly skeptical. Sweden's foreign minister says she still sees no sign that Russia actually wants peace and insists on more pressure on Russian oil and gas revenues. Finland argues there can be no sustainable peace if evil persists, and says the best confidence-building measure would be at least a ceasefire on attacks against energy infrastructure. Lithuania warns that Russia is trying to use so-called peace talks to undermine U.S. leadership and split NATO, and that any deal rewarding territorial gains would kill international law. So while everyone says they want peace, almost nobody in Brussels believes Putin is truly ready for compromise yet. The Brussels meeting shows where NATO is heading: more money, a path towards 5% of GDP on defense. More industry, PERL and other programs tying European cash to U.S. and European factories. More risk, hybrid attacks at home, and the possibility that peace talks fail. For Ukraine, this could mean enough support to survive another winter and deter Russia in the long run. For European citizens, it means higher defense budgets and a debate about what we sacrifice or protect with that money. Do you think this 5% pledge and the U.S.-led peace talks will actually bring peace closer, or just prepare NATO for the next phase of the conflict? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more grounded explainers about Europe's security choices, subscribe to Europe Pulse and share this video with someone who still thinks 2% was the end of the story.